Hello and welcome. This is Rasheem with the Counter Narrative, and tonight we are discussing Ebony Faces and Ivory Towers. More specifically, we're talking to Black women in doctoral programs at predominantly white institutions. And I have three fantastic women joining us tonight to have that discussion. I'm going to give each one of them an opportunity to share a little bit with us about themselves. And I'm going to go ahead and start with you, Kiyomi. Go ahead and let us know your name, your degree, where you are in the process, and tell us something that you are passionate about.
Okay, hi, my name is Dr. Kiyomi Gregory. Actually finished my PhD last year, December, and I'm currently an assistant professor. So I'm done. So I'm out of the program. What am I passionate about? My degree was in communication sciences and disorders, specifically speech pathology, and I focus on child language. I'm really passionate about what's going on with our students in the schools, particularly early intervening services at the kindergarten level. And I look particularly at students who speak non-mainstream American English, so African American English as well as Southern White English. So that's really my focus, that these students get the services they need early on so that they don't have gaps in reading and writing later on.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And then I'm going to go ahead and go to Joan. Please let us know your full name, where you are in your degree process, and something that you're passionate about.
I'm Joan Hudson, a licensed professional counselor. ABD, I have not proposed yet. I'm sorry, the fan came back on again, even though I turned it off.
It's okay.
And my passion is with empowering both women and children in my practice. And my plan is to give back by, helping counselor students learn the trade and learn it well.
Fantastic. And last but definitely not least, we have Angel. Tell us your full name, your degree, where you are in the process, and something that you're passionate about.
Okay, my name is Angel Davis. I am finishing my last classes right now. So in December 4th, I'll be done with all classes, and we'll be submitting in comp. So I'm working on comp right now. So I'll be submitting proposal come January. I currently am a coordinator of professional development and staff training in the same institution that I am getting my degree in, which is in higher education.
Fantastic. So one of the first questions that I have for everyone, and everyone can answer this in doesn't have to be in a particular order. I like to know a little bit, because sometimes people are first generation, or when I looked up some of the statistics around people who have doctorate degrees alone, let alone people who are of a particular gender, and then you intersect that with race, that number shrinks. I'd like to hear from each of you. When was the first time somebody talked to you about getting your doctorate degree?
You can go ahead, Angel.
So for me, I was actually a high school dropout. I dropped out of high school when I was 16. And so I did not start to pursue a college degree until I was 28. And I had a 1-year-old daughter at the time. And so she was kind of the thing that pushed me. I was a trio student in undergrad, which actually ended up being my first job in higher education. So I ended up being a trio academic advisor. But it was my trio counselor, the person that was over trio, that talked to me about going further when it came to, because once I finished my bachelor's, I was like, hey, I made it. I'm good. I did what I was supposed to do. But he was like, no, that ain't it. He was like, that ain't it. You got to keep on going. And so I went ahead and got my master's in social work. And then after that, again, I thought, hey, this is it. But I had some really close friends, some sister girls that were working on their PhD, younger than me, but like moving and showing me how to do it. And so they were like, why not? And so I prayed on it, and I said, why not too? And I went ahead, got accepted, and here we are 3.5 years later.
Fantastic. And you were about to go next, Kiyomi? Dr. Gregory?
Yeah, well, I had a kind of a unique situation. My mom actually always told me I was going to get my doctorate.
Mm.
So she kept planting this seed. And I think after I finished my bachelor's and then I did my master's, I practiced for 4 years in New York City. And I really did not want to go back to school. But I had several people who kept coming up to me, whether it was teachers, if I was doing faculty development, and other people who would just say the same thing, you really should go back. So it kind of confirmed that I had to go back, even if I really didn't want to, because it seemed like it was my calling.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And Joan, what was the first?
I wrote in my high school yearbook that I was going to get a doctorate degree.
Mm.
And oh, my 40th reunion's coming up in, I don't know, 2019. So hopefully I'll have it before I go back. I went to the 30th, I didn't have it. I don't know how I knew I wanted a PhD, but I knew I wanted one, and I went straight from high school to get my undergrad. And then I got married, had some children, and went back and got my master's when my kids were something like 3 and 5 years old. And then when they became, I don't know, teenagers, troublesome teenagers, I decided, hey, now's the opportunity to go back to school. So that's my story.
Mm-hmm. So after each of you gotten sort of that initial advice around the first time somebody even talked to you about actually being in the program, what were some of the things that went into your decision in terms of you deciding, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do this? I'll start with you, Angel.
I don't know, at that time, I had really, and that's what I didn't answer when you asked me in the beginning, sorry, what I was passionate about. And I'm very passionate about Black students, and everybody knows that about me too. And just the journey that they walk through and helping people understand what that journey is like. They have the confusion that our Black students are academically challenged, but it's life that gets in their way. And so those are the things that I really push within the institution. But knowing that I wanted to create and make so many changes, and being a Black woman, I knew, which is sad, but I knew that I needed to be able to say, hi, I'm Dr. Davis, to cut through all that, the initial bull, so that they can take me seriously and start to listen to me quickly. So I just kind of felt like it was something that I needed in order to get and achieve all the things that I want to achieve and make all the changes I wanted to make.
Yeah, one of the things that you mentioned that I'm gonna probably go back to too, in terms of the importance or the significance for you of being able to say, hello, I'm Dr. Davis, and around your passion around Black students. I definitely want to circle back around to that. I'll go ahead and go to you next, Joan. Can you tell us a little bit more about what went into your decision to actually starting a doctoral program, to saying, yeah, I'm going to do this?
It was about, number one, timing. I thought my children at a point where I could return to school, but I knew I needed to do an online program because I was working. And the program I chose was an accredited K-CREP program, so there was just one choice. And my prayer was they were going to accept me, because you had to do the application and the interview and all those sort of, good things that goes into getting accepted. And then once I was there, it was just a great connection to the cohort. And so I thought, I got to keep going. But the part that kind of affirmed what I was doing the right thing is when I did my internship with master's degree students, and it was online. It was, it was late at night, and many of the women talked about the challenges they had in their internships. They didn't know if their experience had to do with their race, their inexperience, and we always had like long into the night discussions, and sometimes after class discussions about, how do you filter, what's what, and so that ended up actually being my dissertation topic.
So if people are just now tuning in, this is the counter narrative. Tonight's topic is Ebony Faces in Ivory Towers. We are talking to and about Black women in doctoral programs at predominantly white institutions. So we're also tapped into Facebook, and we have a question. So I'm going to go ahead and throw that question from Facebook. Donna Van Hook want to know, do they really take women seriously with a doctorate degree? I'll let you go ahead and take that, Dr. Gregory. Do they even take Black women seriously with a doctorate degree?
Well, I definitely think that even when you have your degree, you do go through a lot of people questioning what you're doing, how did you get here? Several times you have to kind of give your narrative. And when I say people, I mean anybody, colleagues, if you go to a conference. I recently traveled and I had someone really question when they had a sign that said Dr. Gregory, and I went up to them. They were really like, "You're Dr. Gregory?" Like very unsure. So it happens often, and getting the degree is not going to change the path that you're on in terms of constantly having to prove yourself. That's something I've encountered in the last year.
Mm-hmm. I feel like one of the things that I feel like Angel kind of hinted on, or kind of almost started talking about, is this feeling that you have to be twice as good. You got to try twice as hard. You got to do all of these things to kind of prove that you deserve to be in this space. How did each of you handle that particular situation? Do you go forth and put forth the effort to prove that you're supposed to be here? Do you try to fight stereotypes? Like, what is that like? Anybody could jump on it.
I'll start on that. I think for me, I struggled with it in the beginning for a long time because working in a predominantly white institution, of course, if you want to fight for a Black student, then you get this, scarlet letter on your forehead. And it ended up being a situation where people started to define who I was. Like, if I was in a room and somebody said something that was against Black students, then everybody would kind of turn to me and be like, Angel not gonna take that. So I had to, I'm serious. And it didn't matter if I whispered, it didn't matter if I said it with a nice, beautiful smile on my face. I still was this person that was going to be on the attack when they would talk about Black students. And so for a while, it really bothered me. And I started to take the people aside who was doing it and explaining to them to let people know who I, figure out who I am on their own. But then I learned that it didn't matter if I whispered. It didn't matter if I said it aggressively. They were still going to react the same way. So I just learned to say what I need to say. I think I've learned how to do it better. But I don't know. I do feel like I got to do twice as much. I do feel like I got to do twice as good. But I typically try to just let my work show it. I don't necessarily just try to be better. I just do what I do because that's me, and they just got to see it after that.
Mm-hmm. Joan, have you had experiences with those type of microaggressions in terms of feeling like someone's coming to you, you're in the doctorate program, how did you get here? Are you on scholarship? Those sort of questions. Have you had to deal with microaggressions like that?
My first semester, first of all, we had a cohort of about 20, and 10 of those were minority students, which was, I guess, unique to our cohort. But there was a professor who was known to be tough. And at the end of the first semester, she tried to counsel me out the program by saying that I should probably go to a brick and mortar institution instead. And I just pretty much ignored what she said. And I didn't realize, I was kind of naive, I didn't realize some of the things she had said to me, she didn't have the authority to say to me. And I found out about a year later when I talked to the head of the department, some of the things she had said to me. He looked shocked because it didn't go through him. So that year, I don't know, ironically, she ended up not being tenured and she left the program. So yes, I've had that experience.
Yeah, it seems like that's actually, unfortunately, more common than we would like. I mean, from everything from Dr. Gregory experience, a feeling of people asking you're not really a doctor, are you, or someone trying to counsel you out of the program, or feeling like you're really having to prove yourself. Seems like that is a very much a common theme. For people who are just tuning in, again, this is the counter narrative. Tonight's episode is Ebony Faces and Ivory Towers. We are talking to and about Black women in doctoral programs. If you are watching here on Facebook, I want to say hello to everyone on Facebook. Thank you to the 3 or 4 people who already have shared this with other people. If you want to be more engaged on YouTube, you could go to my page and it'll take you directly to the YouTube channel. And if you are here on YouTube with us live and you have a question that you would like to ask, then feel free to ask the question, whether you are on Facebook or if you are on YouTube. We'd like to hear from you. We'd like to answer some of your questions. So one of the things that I want to ask of everyone, and I guess I'll start with Dr. Gregory. What does it mean to you? I mean, now you have your doctorate degree. What does it mean to you to be a Black woman with a doctorate degree?
You know, I don't know if it's fully settled in because it hasn't even been a full year yet. December 18th would be when I graduated last year. It means a lot because I feel like I'm doing it on behalf of my family, my sisters just like me who may have never seen a Black professor in their classroom. I know I didn't have that experience until basically into my master's program where I met 2 Black women who were in my field. I didn't even know they existed. So sometimes I think it's great to have that example. And for many of my white students, I'm the only Black professor they've ever had. So just allowing people to experience that and to know that we can go far and we will go further. So there's still a lot of work to do, but just being at the table is the first step.
Mm-hmm. And have you found that having your doctorate degree granted you more access to more seats at more tables?
I definitely think it has. I used to work for the public school district in New York City, and I had a lot of ideas about things that I was seeing within the schools, but I don't think people took me as seriously when I didn't have my doctorate. I recently got to return and do in-services for the teachers. And it's not, I mean, my knowledge base has changed a bit, but a lot of the ideas I had before, it's just now it's kind of verified it for others. But these are things that I always thought about.
With you, Angel, have you had that, like, one of the things that I actually got from Dr. Gregory is what the degree means to her in terms of she's doing it for her sister, basically like modeling. And you mentioned also that you're passionate about Black students. Tell me about this process and what has your degree meant to you?
You know, I think that, excuse me, I am a first generation student. My grandmother ended up getting her degrees later on in life. But other than that, I was a first generation student when I began. And it was more so about my own daughter and wanting to show her differently. Like I said, being a high school dropout, like I was settled with that. I really didn't want I didn't aspire for more because I didn't have anyone else showing me what that looked like. And so the further along I got, and the more I started working with definitely Black women at my school and connecting with them, and them actually starting to look at me as a mentor and look at me as a person to look up to, like, I was like, I got to do this. And, you know, I need to do this, and I need to show them how far a girl like, you know, a woman like me could go. And so I do a lot of sharing my story and sharing my background with them, to a certain extent, of course, just to kind of show them that even though you see these degrees on my wall right now, like I was once you. And so that means that you can do anything you want to do. And I think that's what I was lacking as a kid. I didn't have anybody to show me that, and I didn't have anyone to model that for me. And so now when I see Black women just doing their thing, it is so precious to me. And I want to be that person. I want to be that person that someone can look at and say, you know what, if she can do it, I can do it. And so that's just become a big thing for me. I try to be the person that I would have wanted back when I was their age. And so that's like something that I still aspire to reach that goal, continue to reach that goal every day. And it's just so important to me. And it's important to fight for them. I just want to fight for them so that they are treated fairly, so they get every opportunity that they can have, so nobody can hold them back. You know, it's very frustrating to watch someone stifle your potential. I'm sorry, I don't even like the word potential, but I don't like to see someone stifle their ability. They're Black.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And what about you, Joan? In this process, you mentioned you being ABD and someone trying to talk you out of the process. What has it been that's been keeping you going when you want to quit? Or have you wanted to quit?
No, I've never wanted to quit. Okay. And that talking me out of the program occurred in my first semester. So, you know, that was many semesters ago. What keeps me going? I have a brother who's about a year and a half older who just returned to get his associate's degree, and he and I will talk. And if either one of us gets discouraged, I say to him, "Well, this is not as difficult as being in the field picking cotton, so we have nothing to complain about." You know, so you have to keep it real. That what we see as a struggle now is minimal to what our forefathers had to struggle with. So you don't stop. Just because somebody has put up a roadblock.
Right.
You know, you just become more determined.
Absolutely. That's right. And I think one of the things I hear you saying too, you like kind of put it into perspective, you know, in terms of what our ancestors went through before. And one of the things that I'm hearing here and that I've heard so many times is that our degrees aren't just about us. You know, with Dr. Gregory, or even with Angel, or even with you, it's about the past, the present, and even the future in a lot of these contexts. So, you know, I think that I wonder how many other groups have that in common, where our degree isn't about an individual pursuit of more money, or just about that, or it, you know, may in some ways be about that, but not totally about that. So one of the questions that I have, I'm going to go ahead and go to Dr. Gregory for this question. Someone from Facebook asked, have you experienced any resistance or conflict with other Black women with similar credentials?
I have. It's very interesting. You know, I think there's something about Black women, we can work to empower each other as much as we can work to tear each other down. And sometimes the mentality of if someone's eating, someone's starving. What my perspective is that we all have different gifts, and we'll all end up doing very different things with the gifts that we've been given.
Mm-hmm.
So I've experienced that. I've definitely experienced other females, it kind of being more of a jealousy thing, and they're in competition. But at the end of the day, the only point of us being in a cohort or being together is that we should all just be worried about graduating, moving forward, and what we're going to do after that. So I've tried to separate myself from that. And I think on my PhD journey, I learned a lot of lessons when it comes to my people who uplift me, my people who don't. It was a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what about you, Angel? Have you experienced some of that?
Definitely. I agree with it being, it's almost like, since, especially in these predominantly white spaces, since it's very minimal how many opportunities you have, it becomes a competition. Mm-hmm. And so it's more so, I need to get this at all costs. And so I can't connect with you. I have to be all about me. And that is so hard. You know, it's so hard for me. And I've actually felt that way before. I felt like, man, I need to get in here. I know they're going to fill this with a person of color. I need it to be me. And that's so sad. that it has to be that way sometimes, but I do shake that off and remind myself that it's about, working together. I have some very strong and powerful and vocal Black women that work at the institution that I do. And we're a small circle, but we have definitely learned to latch on to each other and connect. And when there's opportunities, we pull each other in. When there's something new to work on, we work on that. But then there's still a few that still want to be competitive. And I just learned to move past that. And I still bring them in. I still talk to them. I still try to connect. But it's only so much you can do. It's very frustrating because I just want to love on them and embrace them and learn from them. But sometimes they don't want to be a part of that.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that, Joan, did you want to add something to that? Okay.
Not really. I haven't had that experience.
Okay. One of the things that that I have noticed, I've done a study on one of the research projects that I've done is Black women, and it was just generally in graduate school. But one of the things that I found was how many Black women are working full time, have their children, and they're doing all of this in school. Can anybody talk a little bit about the balancing of that? Angel got her head real hard, so I'm gonna go to you first. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I'm a head nodder and a hand talker, so sorry, you can see everything on my face. But for me, when I started this program, I was married with 5 children. 4 of the kids are bonus kids. My ex-husband had 4 before we married. And within the first year of the program, I was in the midst of a divorce, working full-time, maintaining everything. And so it was almost like an explosion for me. And I had no clue how I was going to balance it, all of a sudden being a mom with a daughter that I didn't have a lot of support for anymore. And so for me, I don't know, sometimes I really question how I've done it, but I think I just tried to keep that goal in mind. And I've had the pleasure of working, like my job, first with Trio, and I've been in my new position for about 9 months now. And I could not have been blessed with a better supervisor ever. And she finished the same degree that I'm doing right now. So both of those supervisors were supportive, and they helped me. And they allowed me a lot of freedom to do. I think if I worked anywhere else, I would have been in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And so like they've literally said to me, all right, Angel, I think it's time for you to take a day off. I think it's time for you to go off and get your stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just been a blessing for me. Without it, I would have been in big trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I also have a catering business on the side that I do. And so adding that on top of it, I don't say no.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's still a balancing act, but it's definitely doable. As long as you can keep your mind from going crazy, anything else can be doable.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Anyone else also want to add to that about the balancing acts? Not so much. There is some more comments again from Facebook. Thank you to everyone who has joined us. Donna Van Hook, Shaquila Flintroy, Maria Bloodsworth Graham, Genoma Stinson, Lakeisha Jordan, Denzel Hurd, Soraya Soy Free. Oh, I think I got that right. I hope I did. Shatonia Town, Cherie Parker, Ronnie F. Gilmore, Green Pittman. Thank you, everyone that is on Facebook. Thank you for all of your likes. If you have any questions, feel free to post them. You can also go to the Facebook page and get a link, and it'll bring you to the YouTube channel. I see there's 8 people with us here on YouTube. If you're here, it doesn't let me see you. So just say hey so that I could shout out your name and just acknowledge you for taking the time to come and listen to all of these counter narratives that we're sharing here and right now. I have a question now for Dr. Gregory. And this question is around, as when you're a Black woman and you are in a doctoral program, and you are a Black woman in a doctoral program at a predominantly white institution, sometimes there's a little tokenism that goes on. What has been your experience with tokenism?
Well, I think what happens sometimes is you do feel like you have to represent the whole entire race or people of color. Mm-hmm. I know Angel had mentioned that before. There'll be questions that come up and everyone will turn and look at you. So you do feel sometimes that you have to represent, and it does get tiring, I must say. You get tired because sometimes you just want to represent yourself. Mm-hmm. And I can't speak on behalf of everyone from every race. Also, I think part of it is that when people view you, they view you just as Black and not necessarily like a culture that you come from. I recently was just talking to my students about that because I teach a cultural diversity course, and the difference between race and ethnicity. And they were just like, well, you're Black. And I'm like, well, my family actually comes from Guyana in South America. So I'm second generation here. And they were like, oh, we didn't, we just thought, if you're Black, you're Black. Just that whole idea that there's variation within a race, just like there's variation within the Asian culture. There's the same thing with us. So it sometimes feels one-dimensional when there's just so much more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what about you, Joan? Have you experienced any tokenism?
In my undergraduate and master's degree, I always felt like I was a raisin in the milk because I was generally always the only one in my counseling classes and my psychology classes. It was different from my PhD, thankfully, that, there was more than one of me, because I remember the master's degree classes and counseling the culturally different, and the professor happened to be African American, but then all the eyes just turn when there's those certain questions, and it's just a discomfort that occurs when you are, as I put it, the raisin in the milk.
Mm-hmm. And what about you, Angel?
Yeah, so I think it's my whole academic career feeling that way. It kind of is what a lot of the things that I do. I do a lot of cultural competence training and diversity and inclusion training and things like that. And it was mainly because of my experience I had during my master's program, where you would think in social work that we would have a lot of people that just kind of get some things, that none got it. And women, or Black people in general, constantly, and it was very, very irritating. And I remember, but during my doctoral program, my cohort, really half and half. We have half people of color in there, and then the rest are white. But we all mesh, and we all try to get each other to understand one another. And so we've been able to stand firm and strong in the program and represent how we want to represent, and not be called on to represent the whole world. And so we also have a professor. Her name is Dr. Pamela Hoff, and she don't play. And she's amazing, and she does not play. She makes people look at themselves, even us, and she makes us look and evaluate ourselves. And so it's been really powerful this last semester to be able to really know what to say and how to say it. So I've been taking it on the road. I've been taking it in meetings, taking it in other things within my institution, and I've been feeling good about it. I've been feeling good about standing my ground and being who I am as opposed to who they're trying to make me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yes to that. Sinesta Angel. Oh, that's you. You're watching on there too, on Facebook. I was just about to give you a shout out. Stephanie Span. Thanks for joining us. So there's a question on YouTube from N. Gordon, and she asks, are any of you tenured professors? If so, what is your perception during the process? If not, is anyone experiencing obstacles more than minority cohorts? So I guess that first part of that would be for Dr. Gregory. She's not a tenured professor yet, I don't think, but she can probably speak to what are your perceptions of, I guess, the process that you're currently in?
Well, currently I'm on the tenure track. So this is year 1 of being on the tenure track. And so far as at my annual meeting, everything seems to be on track. But I got to tell you, I'm doing more than whatever they expect, because I just feel like if I go beyond, then it'll make it so much easier for there to be any questions. So as far as publications, I already got a publication that came out. I have something under review, and I have something I'm starting. And that's what I was told on the tenure track. The most important thing is having something out, having something in the process, and knowing what the next thing's going to be. So that's how I'm keeping it.
Right. I hear that. Does anybody have any more to add to that? Or any? Okay. Another question she asks is, if not, is anyone experiencing obstacles more than non-minority cohorts? I'm not all the way sure more on what that means, but could you flesh that out for us more, Ms. Gordon? And also any other of the other 10 people, if you just want to say hi, I would like to say hi back, because when you say hi, then it lets me see your name, and I can say hi to you. And also if you have a question. I'm going to jump this question that I have next to Joan. And the question that I want to ask you is, have you been experiencing any other unique challenges that you feel are unique to your race and gender, or compounded by your race or gender in your program?
One of the things that I think about is that insecurity that comes from, is it me personally versus is it me as a woman versus is it me because I'm a Black woman? And it's kind of hard to sift through what is what, because some of it could be need for more knowledge. Other things could be some type of microaggressions. So the question is, how do you do that? And I think there are additional stressors on minorities, and I think there's additional stresses on women in this environment. And I'm just wondering what the other people's thoughts are about that.
Dr. Gregory, what has been your experience with that? Have you experienced any other unique challenges? And I know your field, the sciences, that makes the field even more, a little bit more tighter.
Well, what I would say within my profession of speech language pathology, people of color only make up 7% nationally. So it's far and few in between in terms of speech language pathology. So already I'm in a field that where I'm not really represented. So it's kind of one of those things that I would love to see an increase in terms of diversity, especially because we serve such a diverse population.
Absolutely. Ms. Gordon clarified more. She said, do you feel like you are doing more than enough work to satisfy, and I think you spoke to this, to satisfy your tenured committee than others who are on the on your tenure track? Do you feel like you're doing more? And I think you kind of said yes to that.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think another piece of it too, and what I've tried to do is find mentors. So I believe in mentorship that's been a huge part of my journey, is having a mentor at every level. So even finding individuals who are tenured already who can help me through that process.
Awesome. And hi Laura, and hi Gordon, and anyone else who would like to say hello, please do. You brought up mentorship, Dr. Gregory. I want to ask Angel about that. I want to hear, did you have a mentor? And if so, what was that relationship like, and what did they actually help you through?
You know what? For the longest, I did not, and that's something that me and my close friends talk about all the time, is how we lacked that for a long time. And I think that part of mine was because I've always been a non-traditional student. And so, like I said, I started at 28, I'm 38 now. And so, and I've always worked within the institution for most of my time. And so since I had some things that I was an expert of, people tended to think that I didn't need it. And it was the assumption, but I needed it. I wanted somebody to kind of, and I would try to get closer to people and connect with people, and it just never happened. But like I said, my new position, when I tell you that I have a supervisor that is freaking dynamite, and this woman, she's a white woman. She's, you know, we're very similar in many ways, but we're very different in many ways. But immediately she has taken me and she has just pushed me to be this different person. And not different as in change, but want more and fight for more and to, you know, have the right words and to connect more and learn how to connect to get the things that I need out of them. And so I really feel like that with her, things are going to be all right, you know, and I'm so grateful for it. But I really did have to do a lot of this on my own. And when I would try to connect with the Black women who I thought could be my mentors, I always felt like they were measuring me, you know. I've had moments where people have made me feel like I'm not Black enough, which I don't know how that can be. But that's how I felt. I felt like I wasn't enough for them. And so that I really struggled and fought with that. And so the fact that now I have this woman who I never thought would be the one to do that, like, she is the bomb. She's the bomb. I've already told her that she got to add me in any negotiation package she gets. If she going, I'm going.
That's right. Listen, when you find a good person to work with, especially as your supervisor, you definitely got to hold on to that. Because, yes. Joan, did you have a mentor in your process navigating these murky waters?
I think the way the program was set up, that the cohorts, we all pulled each other through until you get to the dissertation stage. And, you know, that's where the rubber meets the road. And the professor that I did my internship and practicum under ended up being my mentor. We clicked, it worked. And so that's how that ended up. But when I think about those who've completed on time or earlier, they connected with a mentor pretty early in the program. And, you know, if in hindsight is 2020, that would be something that I would have made sure happened sooner rather than later.
I definitely could get that. So we are winding down to like 17 minutes to go. I still have 2 more questions that I want to ask all of you. And then after that, if people want to connect, follow, friend, or however you connect socially, I wanted to give you guys the opportunity to do that, and also let people know what you're up to. So the next question that I have, or one of the last questions that I have, is, we are now in a time capsule. You're going back in time, Dr. Gregory. You're going back in time. Before you were Dr. Gregory, you were a young woman. You were thinking about the doctoral program. Joan, you weren't ABD. You were just like, should I do this program? Should I not? Should I go to this school? Should I not? Angel, you weren't all the way in it like this. You was at the beginning of the beginning. I'm gonna start with you, Dr. Gregory. What would you have told future Dr. Gregory about this journey that she is about to embark on?
I would have told myself that when it seemed like things were at its worst was when I saw the light. And I gotta say that during the dissertation process and the prospectus process, it probably was one of the darkest times I was in, because you just gotta write. Every day I wrote in a coffee shop, different coffee shops. I had a writing group, and you would go on like Facebook and social media or call your people. Everybody seemed like they were living their life, like they were out there living. And I was just like, I'm still here on page 50 to page 100. And it felt like it was forever. if I could have just told myself that I needed to be patient and it will take time, but I will finish if I stay the course, because the main thing about this program, it's about persistence. It's not as much about you being smart as it is about you getting up, dusting yourself off, and getting up again. So that's what I would have told myself. Keep going.
All right. And Joan, Miss Hudson.
Oh, I think I would have told myself to relax. You've gotten to this point where you've been accepted. You can do the rest. And I don't know, I was still struggling about, did I need a 4.0? Well, I didn't, I'm pretty close, but I didn't need to have one. What I needed was probably to enjoy the journey more, because this is it. I'm older, I'm not looking for tenure, but I am looking to give back. And I just really wish I would have relaxed more, been less stressed, blood pressure would have done a little bit better, those sort of just real simple things.
Awesome sauce. And Miss Professor Davis.
I agree with the doctor over there when she said worrying about smartness as opposed to persistence. Like for me, when I started I think I was really worried about if I was smart enough to do this, but learning that meant very little. It was about how hard I was going to work and how hard I was willing to, I think, sacrifice, because it's such a big sacrifice, especially when you have children and, a life that you're trying to have. Well, I guess I really don't have a life, but that's okay. That's another story. That's another session. But, but no, seriously though, I think for me, understanding that when things are going well, that's immediately when, and I'm sorry, I'm a religious person, but when things go well, that's when the devil come in and try to smack you in the face. And so I think had I prepared myself more to know that those challenges and roadblocks would come and really understand how rocky this road would have been, I would have stayed prayed up a little bit more and prepared myself more for those challenges, as opposed to worrying about if I was smart enough to do the work.
Awesome sauce. So if for everyone who is still here listening live, or if you are watching the replay, feel free to like or share this video with a sister friend who you think can use some insight, advice, encouragement. I'm going to give the ladies an opportunity to share ways to contact them. You can always reach, I am S. Rasheem on Twitter and Snapchat and Instagram. And the website that I have is SHVILLARASHEEM, ShavillaRasheem.com or SRasheem.com. Either one will take you to the same place. If you want to see what research I'm up to, what I'm working on, what I'm thinking about, and ways to connect with you, Dr. Gregory, if people want to follow, tweet, or whatever.
The best way to get in touch with me is by email at kgregory@salus.edu. I'm always open to mentoring people, guiding them through that PhD process, because I really wish that I had someone who was able to, there's certain things you're not really sure about, or sometimes you just need to bounce ideas off of someone. So again, it's kgregory@salus.edu. You can email me.
Look, I'm gonna keep that email for myself. I'm gonna be reaching out. And Ms. Hudson.
My email is joanhud@mail.regent.edu.
And Professor Davis.
I'm a social media junkie, so you all can do that. My Facebook it's Sonesta Angel Davis, but if you look up Angel with 2 L's and Davis, you'll see my big old face there. On Twitter, I'm Angel Davis with 2 L's. So please connect. I am always down to have conversations and talk through things. And I'm brainstorm queen. That's what I love to do, is talk through problems and concerns and about my Black students, or just student success in general. So yeah, I look forward to hearing from you.
Awesome. So I'm going to stop the broadcast in a moment. I don't want you ladies to go anywhere, but I'm going to stop the broadcast for everyone else. Thank you so much for everyone who has tuned in to the Counter Narrative. It's actually every Saturday night at 9:30 p.m., but this was a two-part. This is part 2 of it. Laura says, thank you ladies so much for speaking and sharing. What else was I about to say? The next episode of the Counter Narrative is next Saturday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and the topic is Black and Happily Married. We're going to talk to some people who are going to tell us how to do that there. And thank you for everybody for tuning in and listening. I appreciate it. Have a good night.